A lot of people have been asking me how my AK bolt goes all the way back like that. Well, today I'm going to show it to you. I know I made a video in the past about it, but it was made very hastily. It said it'd take me a total of 5 minutes and it was a piece of crap. So I'm going to do a better one today.
There are a couple tools that you'll need for this, although they are very simple. All you need is a small Phillips head screwdriver and any saw that can cut through metal. It could be a hand saw or a Dremel. You just need something that can cut through metal.
Now, first you're going to take out your magazine, of course, and take off your top cover for your gun by pressing this back button here and simply pulling off your top cover. There we go. Now, to get this bolt mod to work, basically, if you can see, my bolt is shorter than the standard Tokyo Marui bolt. You could see that usually on your Tokyo Marui clone or otherwise will have a tail on the back end of this bolt that extends to right about here. The reason mine is lacking that is simply because I cut it. Basically, that tail prevents you from pulling your bolts all the way back. It stops it to about here instead of going all the way back. So that tail is what's preventing you from pulling your bolts all the way back, and that tail does absolutely nothing except prevent you. So you're going to need to cut the bolt. Now the way you do that, of course, is first you got to remove the bolt from the rest of the assembly up here. The way you're going to do that is take your screwdriver, and you'll see there is a small, tiny little screw. I hope you can see this. Tiny little screw right there by my pinky finger. And you're going to take that out with your little screwdriver here. Do not lose this screw, people. Once you take that screw out, you're going to take your button here that you see that I took off the top cover with. You're just going to push it till it comes free and rotate it outwards like this. And now just slowly pull this plastic part back and it should pop free. Take it very slow so it doesn't explode on you. And there we go. So here is your plastic top. And what you're going to do is just take that little button off, pull this metal wire back until your bolt is free. Now, you can see more clearly how I've cut the back end of this to make it slide easier. Now the way you can cut this, I already told you the tools list earlier. You just take your metal saw, and you can see that there is a chunk here, and then it gets thinner and smaller and goes about this far. You're going to cut it right where it gets from here to that next increment where it gets smaller. And that's about it. You could cut off this if you really wanted to, but you don't need to because the bolt can't go any farther back than where I've already cut it. So you could, but it wouldn't make a difference. It just look weird. Now, while you have this all apart, I recommend highly that you do something about your spring that holds your bolts in place. This is the original bolt spring. You can see it is very tiny and it's not very strong. So what I recommend you do is not stretch it because that'll weaken it. As you can see here, I have two other springs here. These springs are from Clicky Pins. Clicky Pins work fine. Their springs fit right on here and they give a nice little boost to the bolt whenever you pull it back. So this just beefs up your bolt because otherwise the spring gets worn out and doesn't have as much power because it's a cheap spring. So essentially what you do is you just slide all your springs back on here. This mod is very easy. Just slide all your springs back on. Hold those springs back. A lot of this you're just going to have to follow my movements because I can't explain every little step in between. Hold these springs back. Take your bolt and slide it back onto the rod. Alright, once you have all that squared away and it's all back in together, you're just going to slide it back into your gun. Plain and simple. And once you have it in, you're just going to push it forward to lock it in place. Just ease it forward just a little bit. and you should hear it pop and it should stay. And once you have all that back together, you have to put your back button back on. Now, this is the easiest way to me how you do this. You just take your button and you stick it in this little slot on top of the gearbox. Keep it forward like this and push your spring in like that. That's the easiest way in my opinion. And then you're going to take your little tiny screw hole and that screw I told you not to lose, and you're going to put it back in here. This is how tiny the screw is, but it holds a lot. And then you're just going to put your top cover back on. And you are done. Now your bolt should, instead of stopping here, go this far back. At this time, I want to thank you guys for watching. Remind you to comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. You just take your button, failure,